Can you hear the music in the background? There's this background new thing. I'm going to turn the volume up. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Do you think our audience, hold on, turn it down. Do you think our audience would appreciate that?
Maybe. We'll see.
Did you just walk back and then did your mic follow you? I don't know what the positioning, and we'll probably do an episode of what Warren's studio looks like.
Actually don't know. Can you hear me okay?
I can, but there's an echo. It's as if your voice bounces something.
Oh, okay. Well, something to play with.
Should we keep the music? Should we keep the music through the entire show?
No. Maybe when I'm demoing, you can put it back.
Play some background music. Because we still have to decide whether or not this is going to be a live show. Although Warren doesn't want to do it live. He actually wants to be able to edit it in some editing software so that if there's a blemish on his forehead, he'll be able to take that out. Hold on, what show is this, Warren?
Azure Connect. Well,
is it Azure Connect? What are we actually doing? Hold on, I think there's something we do have to do. Do you even remember the intro? We were so excited about that intro, right? And you can see how dated it is. It actually says Azure Connect 2020.
Jeez, we've been away a while.
That's the last time we did anything, right?
Well,
and
it was in person.
It was in person, and we'll talk about. Let's do the intro. Welcome to Azure Connect, where we make Azure simple. This is a bi-weekly show. It was supposed to be a bi-weekly show, only 2 years late, about all things Azure. We share our thoughts.
We can make it a bi-yearly show.
17 hours of Azure Connect, right? This is a bi-week. Well, we're hoping to get back to that, and we'll talk about that in a bit. This is a bi-weekly show where we share our thoughts, opinions, learnings, what's current, what's coming, and what's annoying about Microsoft's cloud offerings, right? We may even hint at AWS, although... Well, you've spent time in AWS doing stuff, deploying Microsoft workloads in AWS. Hi, my name is Alistair Pugin. I don't even know what I am. The show notes over here that I'm reading, it says that, hi, I'm Alistair Pugin, your host, and this is Warren DeTroy, our resident Azure expert. I don't even know if that's a thing, right?
Well, nothing's changed, right?
Well, I wear ties now, I suppose. Yeah. If you are new, welcome, grab a coffee. Although I suppose 2 years later, everyone's going to be new. Grab a coffee or a whiskey. We have no idea when this is airing, what time of the day. If you're a day drinker, we're an equal opportunity inclusion person here, so please stick around. If you are returning, thank you so much for sticking with us.
You're welcome.
Where have we been, right? I think that's the important part, right?
Yeah.
We used to record together.
Yes.
And that was pre-COVID, right?
Yeah.
It was... I think the last episode aired in February 2020.
Yep. But look, all things considered, it's not like we haven't done anything at all, right? So I suppose we did the cloud architects like last week, which is pretty cool. So it's not like it's completely fallen. I think it's more this particular show.
Did it air? Did cloud architects air?
I don't know. We need to check.
I was a guest once again. I was a guest once again on the Cloud Architects. I think I was twice, the first guest twice, and they called me back because the Gooseman was in country. Where have we been? Well, when we started this show, the idea was for Warren and I to get together, sit in front of a camera, and record stuff, right? And we were largely successful in doing that. And then COVID happened. And then I moved to Cape Town, and Warren stayed in Johannesburg.
Yeah,
and then a year went by, and we had to figure out what we're going to do with this. Both of us got excessively busy, and I think this wasn't a New Year's resolution. It was just like we actually need to do something with the show because we enjoy doing this. I get to put stuff in Warren's calendar. Now he has to attend. So I think for me, that's beneficial.
Because you put it in the work calendar now, so it's good.
It's in the work calendar, right?
And it's still a vape-friendly show.
Oh, it is that too, right? So We might even do an everyday carry of what we carry with us, because as content creators, I'm just going to label us content creators. We get to show you what's in our pockets, right? What's in your pockets? So we've been off trying to figure out what COVID looks like. We've changed jobs. No, you've still got the same job, right?
No,
Yes.
I changed.
You changed.
Yeah.
I changed, and we needed to figure out what that world looks like. I actually don't have anything to drink. Maybe I should ask someone to bring me something. Anyhow, so let's get back to business. We're already 5 minutes in, and that's what happened to us. And we apologize for people that started following us, and then we ghosted all of you, like an episode of You, and we're not going to do that anymore. So we're going to try and keep it to a fortnightly, because I think bi-weekly people get confused. It's not twice a week, it's twice a month. And we talk about all things Azure and things that we've actually been doing with Azure. And we used to have a new segment. We might bring that back. Not sure.
Well, look, I think something that I'd like to change this time around is make it a little bit more demo intensive, like actually show this stuff working. You know, so I miss being on stage, and I miss doing technical talks, something that we haven't done in a while, and I think I'm a little bit out of practice. So perhaps maybe we can use this as like a platform where I can actually show how things are done.
I want to do something on Azure Purview.
There we go. Exactly. So have an actual demo slot where we can actually show people exactly how it works, exactly how stuff gets deployed, and exactly what's happening, as opposed to just saying, okay, well, this is new and it's awesome. We can say this is new, it's awesome, and this is how it works.
Are you sure we shouldn't sort of swap apparel, because you're very, very formal about your approach, and I'm the guy standing here in a shirt and a tie going, I don't even know what we're doing, right? Yeah. I do. I've got the headphone version of that T-shirt, and I think that's the last conference we actually. It wasn't the last; it was the penultimate. We had Ignite.
There was a lot. Yeah.
Ignite the Tour Johannesburg 2020, right? And I think that's the last time I spoke in person at any event, and I'm hoping that that's going to change. So today's show, right? And this show is not sponsored by Synology.
No,
they're a long-time friend of the show. But they have, and I feel like such a content creator saying that this show is not sponsored by Synology, but they do send us some kit to review. And
we need to give a huge kudos to Andrew, our boy. He's so rad. He always sends us the coolest stuff to mess around with. He really does.
Always supported us, and we do apologize to Andrew for the lateness of the show. And that's also something that sort of, we blame COVID. Let's blame COVID.
Yeah, let's blame COVID.
And funnily enough, when we decided to do this episode, for the last, and this guy, right, on my desk still today, and he's getting upset.
Noise.
I've got a microphone arm. I've got a low profile arm now under my monitors where my mic is, because I don't look like a podcaster with a big arm. And he moves. I can use that word because only South Africans would understand it. He drives into the arm and pushes the arm out of the way. Quite annoying. Anyhow, coming back. So we've been talking for some time now about the state of BCD, or business continuity and disaster recovery, and what these words mean to customers. Because the last couple of months I've been dealing with quite a few modernization projects and customers moving to the cloud. And what that world looks like. And obviously, when you're doing a cloud adoption framework and inside of a well-architected framework and all these frameworks, the biggest question that's come up is not so much about, hey, what does modernization mean to you, but what does business continuity mean, right? And a lot of the times for these organizations that come from a traditional on-prem backup or on-prem data center, they think that business continuity is backup. Then they talk about RPOs and RTOs. And when moving to the cloud, I think I read an article around RPOs and RTOs. Well, actually, it's under the service description for VMs. It says the RPO and RTO is for VMs is less than 30 seconds. If you're using ASR, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and then you deal with managed services organizations that come from this traditional world, and they say, well, can we do a DR failover and test, and we're going to spend a weekend doing this, right? And we got to switch the servers on, right? Because that's the DR stuff, and that's how we used to do it. I remember working for an insurance company. I think in 2010, right? And we used to do quarterly DR tests. Right?
Correct.
Now, in Azure, you can actually do a DR test on production in the background with ASR, right?
Exactly.
But there's still that view that you need an entire weekend from Friday evening till Sunday evening to test your DR. And
Correct.
And you have to switch things on in order and all of that. And the world is now confused with what high availability means, what disaster recovery means, what business continuity means, what backup means, and more importantly, what restore means, right? And it's very convoluted. And today I really want to talk to, and the segue here is there's multiple ways of doing this. And one of the ways we want to talk to everyone about is Synology and what they've done with their products. Right?
Well, exactly. And I think when you look at, it's also like one of those fit for purpose things, right? So a lot of people don't understand that you can't take like this one size fits all and sort of apply it to everything, right? Certain workloads need certain RPO and certain workloads need certain RTO, et cetera, et cetera. So there's no point in wasting your time architecting a workload that has an RTO of 30 minutes or whatever the case may be is when it doesn't need it, right? So you're just literally wasting money. So what is it that you need 3 copies of? Why do you need
hold on, 3 copies? What does that mean, Warren? Did you read the show notes?
Hey?
Did you read the show notes?
I did.
I'm supposed to ask you, and to the viewers out there, I apologize for Warren's tardiness, right? Because I write the show notes and then he tells me, hey,
yeah,
I've
hold
got
on a
access
minute.
to it. And then he doesn't read it, or maybe he glances over it and he doesn't follow order.
Wow.
So what backup? Let's go back to the show notes, and maybe you can edit this, right? Or just leave it in because there might be a blooper reel. When we talk about backup is very different. So we're talking about just backup, right? So are there different types of concepts when it comes to backups? I mean, what are customers saying to you? Is there an industry standard that when we talk about backups, this is the world that you should be looking at, and what does that mean?
Right. Well, again, I come back to the type of workload, right? So why do you need the backup would be the first question, okay? Because hold on a minute. So think about it. Generally, how often do you need the backup because somebody broke it, right? Somebody broke it, or somebody clicked something they shouldn't have and the malware decided to encrypt it, okay? Because backups are literally there for that, right? It's not for something breaking, because technically if that would be, so when we talk about high availability, right, then you'd have another set of something ready to run or whatever the case would be. It's backup is so that you can restore a working copy of something, right? So let's think about those concepts and think about your compliance. You're huge into compliance, right? So let's think about the concept of how many backups do you need? How long do you need to keep them for? And why do you need to keep them? And how much storage are you going to need over the next 10 years?
Yeah, right? Legislative and regulative compliance does come into play, but then it's more into, we start talking about that data loss prevention and retention, so information governance, right? In this case, I like the example you used. It's not breaking, it's exactly that. Something happened and you need to get to what do they call it? Restore points, recovery point, or RPO.
Recovery point objective, yeah.
That's an RPO, recovery point, right? So and you know, we're not going to talk too much right now about it, but for me, when I look at backup, the reason why you have a backup, because you need a copy in case the current copy gets flamethrowed, right?
Yeah.
There's
alternatively, somebody wants to inspect it, right?
Or so malicious intent, right? Someone deletes it, right? And you have a backup of that, and it's more around protection of content. And you could talk to data loss, but I don't want to talk about that topic right now. We'll do a data loss session. But backups in the context of how people understand backups, it's exactly that, right? You make a copy of it so that in the event the current version of that copy gets destroyed, you have a recovery point or a restore point so that you can bring that back for whatever the reason, legislative, or because you've got a malicious intent or ransomware and then things happen, right?
And then again, and then your next question, obviously, we segued into why we need backups, right? So now again, that's also dependent. Now let's take it to you and me, right? So why do you and me need backups? And now let's think about this for a second. So I had 15 external hard drives that I've been keeping in my cupboard for like the past 15 years, right? Let's say. Okay. It's probably got random photos and documents and stuff that I guess I'm hoarding it, right? Like in some way. Now, what do I do with that, and how do I prevent those backups from breaking, right? Now, because technically, even though they are backups, okay, they're my only copy, right? So does that actually make it a backup? Because those hard drives are the only copies of those documents that I actually have. So it's the only one that I have, right? So what is it? It's the only copy I have, but technically it's still a backup, right? So what do I do with it? How do I stop that hard drive from dying, right? And so essentially, this is obviously where the Synology comes in and how the cloud sync works. And it allows you to take these 16 million hard drives that you've got, put it on the NAS and pump it into Azure storage, which costs me next to nothing. Right? Costs me
So hold on. Let me understand this. We're saying that you're a data hoarder and you've got a ton of content that you want to keep in triplicate, because you said something about 3, right?
I don't know when I'm going to need it, if ever. I don't know.
But we keep it. It's like that hard drive I got in a drawer somewhere that's actually an IDE drive from 2011, right?
Exactly.
It's there, and I might power it up, and hopefully it would power up, but I keep the data, right?
You know, there might not just be movies on there. It might be other stuff, right, that you need.
So talk to me about backup concepts, Warren. You mentioned something that 3 and what does that world look like?
Yeah, so you know, Synology have this huge. Well, they've got this strategy that they promote. Okay, and it's
is it Synology's, or is it like a standard strategy?
Well, I would say it's probably a standard one, but I think it's Synology that's technically popularized it. Okay.
So what is that strategy? Is there a name? Is there like
it's
an acronym?
called the 3-2-1 backup strategy, essentially, right? And what that is it's your first copy, right? Then your second copy, and then an offsite copy. Okay. So that would be your 3-2-1. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be first copy on site, second copy on site, third copy in the cloud. Your first copy could technically be in the cloud. Okay. So let's take, for example, Office 365. Office 365 would be your first copy. Okay. Then what happens is you've got active backup, which then goes and sucks out your Office 365.
And this is a Synology product, right?
Correct. Well, yes, active backup is yes, correct.
Right. So let's just frame this. We talked about the concepts of backup, and yes, you can, and there are solutions in the cloud that provide you with a facility to backup, right? And in theory, you could, if you did it right, like in the old days, you'd back up to a tape. That tape then gets put into a box. That box then gets given to an offsite provider that's going to put it into a warehouse somewhere that's fire retardant. And when you need to recover, because the copies of content that you have in your 3.2 dies, right? Ransomware infiltrates the first copy and the second copy, but because it's an offsite backup, they can't get there, right? It's almost air-gapped.
Correct.
It's not a live living backup, right? And you don't replicate that across. And now you can recover from that. So that's the concept that we're talking about. Trust that there's a third copy of your data that is almost immutable. So how do we achieve it? And we know that we can do it with Azure Backup, and you can do replication across regions if you want to do that, right? Or even, you can do it across zones and then regions, right? And you can go across, you can actually do multi-geo, not just regions within a country. You can actually go from South Africa to Europe, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times customers do that. They host in Johannesburg North in one region. They do and their stuff there, and then they multi-region to the Cape, and then they multi-geo that third copy into Europe.
Well, you see, you mentioned so look, Azure's an incredible example, because if you have to take Azure storage, there's 3 copies in LRS already, right? Then there's 9 copies in ZRS, right? And then there's the GA ZRS, which is I think 6. So it's 12 copies, which gives you 16 nines, right? So you get 16 nines of availability on Azure storage like that, right? But so Azure storage is that third copy that can, if that's what you choose. However, okay, how long are you going to keep it for? Do you need to access it very often? I mean, obviously, Azure's got different tiers of storage as well, where you can go, you want hot, you want cold, you want archive. Archive becomes a problem because archive, you can't access it immediately. You have to sort of request it, right? So you need to make sure that whatever backup strategy you have, if it's something that you're going to be archiving after, let's say, the first year, and you're going to be keeping it for 7 years, then you use archive storage, because it means that you're not going to need it immediately. It's going to be pulled for an audit purpose or whatever the case would be, is right? So, but again, Azure storage. So in this particular case, I can now go, with my Synologies, for instance, and I can take all 16 removable drives, put them onto the Synology, replicate them to another Synology, and then replicate that to Azure.
But also, when we start talking about GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, right, and large orgs or small orgs, depends on how they mitigate risk. And I want to talk about the risk of putting all your eggs in one basket. So yes, the facility is there, but the business case, when risk or auditors come in and they look at what is your backup strategy, you go 3 to 1, and they go, but it's in the same thing, right? So what if all of the things in the same thing explode, right? There's a mass outbreak, like World War Z, and everything is infected, right? What happens then? And I think this is the real business value and business case outside of the cool tech, right? Because Synology's got spectacular tech, right? And Warren's going to demo that for you now. But when we look at de-risking your backup strategy, offline backup is the guaranteed de-risk, right? If you want risk guarantee or risk compliance, off-site backup is still there, right? Take it out of Azure, or make sure that there's an off Azure or an off cloud version, even though your third backup you might write to Azure, because it depends on how your permutations. But for me, when I look at the use case to completely de-risk your backup strategy, off-site is still a thing. As much as we don't want to accept that, but it's still a de-risks, right? And you speak to any risk person, they're going to go, so it's in the same place, because they don't understand locations, even though you've explained it to them. So it's still Azure backup. That's not de-risking. So for those out there that want to look at it from a compliance perspective, understand that the best option for de-risking, and in this case, we're using Synology as that best option to de-risk your backup strategy. I'm going to stop talking because Warren's got a demo, and you heard.
And another thing that the Synology also provides, which is really, really cool, is the fact that it can do all the different types of backup at the same time, right? So it's like that all-in-one bundle. So check this out. Let me show you. So if I go and pop this guy over there, right? So let's have a look. This is
what are we looking at right now, Warren?
So this is my Synology, right? This is my NAS. Let's say, so this is my first NAS, and let's say this is my NAS. That's
so this is Synology's interface on top of the device that you get from Synology, right?
Correct. Stock standard. This is literally how it comes straight out the box, right? So all you do is you go to the package center, which is over here.
And most NASs have this, right? They've got an interface where you've got storage accounts and arrays and logical and physical and all of those things, and you configure NAS like you configure NAS. And this is, I think it's called DSM, right?
This is DSM 7, and you'll see all you quickly do is you quickly go and you install the bits and bobs that you need. So in this particular case, I went and I installed Active Backup, and I installed Hyper Backup and the Snapshot and Replication tool, right? So we've got this Hyper Backup over here, okay? And then I've got active backup for Microsoft 365, and active backup for Google Workspace, and active backup for business. Now, the business one is capable of backing up your servers. It's capable of backing up your laptops, any sort of file shares, your Linux boxes, all that sort of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not exactly what I'm going to focus on now. So I've got active backup for...
Also, these tools ship with the device.
Yes, 100%. Yep, 100% they do.
They ship with the device. So it's not an additional cost per user.
No, not at all.
Tools. It's with I think there's a cloud storage part.
Yes. Okay. So that's additional, right? So if you want additional cloud space, then for sure you can totally pay for that. Now, you've also got Cloud Sync, right?
Sorry, Warren, and I know I'm interrupting you. There's a couple of things I want to talk specifically about that. Now, why I like Synology, right? Is the tooling's free. They've got a big beta community. There's other NASs out there. We've looked at other NASs. You get OEM'd ones where you're dropping open source NAS software on top of them, where there's nothing on it. You literally have to install an operating system and all of that. Synology ships with all of this. Right?
Yeah.
And it's literally, I go to Partner Center, a package manager, Part Package Center, right?
Package Center.
And I go there and I select the one I want, and I install a Ninja Dust. It's there, and it's fully managed by the NAS and by Synology's interface, DSM, right?
Yeah, and then if you like to mess around like I do, you add the community packages, right? And then you can go and install crazy cool stuff like Home Assistant, and you can run that directly off the NAS. You can even go and do your favorite. So check, I can do an Octoprint over here for 3D printing. Then where's your favorite thing here? There we go.
It's called Plex. Where is it?
There we are. Are you
I don't torrent. I don't torrent. It's no couch potato, so no, I didn't say that on the show. There is Sonar. Sonar is there. Wow. I didn't even know about these things, Warren. Right? This is for another show when we don't talk about the business value of running.
Yes, we'll talk more about it.
Let's get back to it.
And it all runs on Docker, dude. It all runs on Docker, so you can check.
Why must you always put...
You have
no
show is complete without containerization. Sorry.
All right, coming back to what we want to do. So
I even run a AdGuard proxy, which is for DNS filtration for my kids off this NAS, so that I can make sure that they don't do dodgy sites and that Google Safe Search is enforced. All running on a container on the NAS.
So for the NAS enthusiasts, we will do a show on Azure Connect around what have you done with your NAS lately, right?
Yeah.
All right. I've dropped Minecraft. That's as far as I've gone outside of active backup for business and active backup for Microsoft 365, right? And what's nice is, especially for, we know, and there's enterprise versions of this. And today we're talking to the small to medium business and the small to medium commercial, right? Corporate, small to medium corporate, where this role is managed by a handful of people inside of IT, right? There's no backup person that's running around with tapes. And that's what's really nice about this platform. One interface, right? And when we start talking about managing other devices, we're going to still take you through one interface, right? So that you can actually manage multiple NASs. But when we look at cloud organizations moving to the cloud, naturally, we talk about Microsoft. So we've got 4 clouds. We've got Azure, and that's what active backup for business is. We've got Microsoft 365, and that's what active backup for Microsoft 365 is. And then because Microsoft splits it, you've got D365. And when we get Chris Huntingford on the show, that will be the only time when we talk about Dynamics. And then Power Platform, right? Even though Power Platform and everything runs on top of Azure. So today we're going to focus on Azure Backup for Business when we come to 3-1. And also what's cool about being able to utilize Azure Backup for Microsoft 365 and other cloud providers, where you can take all of that, and if you want to put it into cold storage in Azure, you can as your one. But I'm going to hand over for the last time to Warren, so that he can actually show us what this product really does and why we're excited about it.
Exactly. So if we have to go look at the active backup for Microsoft 365, right? So you can check, I've got a backup summary. I've got all the bits and pieces. I've got mail. I've got OneDrive. I've got SharePoint sites. I've got calendar. I've got contacts. I've got a task list. You can see exactly what it's doing, exactly how much it's pulled. You can see the activities behind it, what sort of mail was pulled down, etc., etc. If the tasks ran successfully, all that lovely stuff, right? And then what we can do is we can go straight into the portal over here, which is again, same interface. And then I can then choose which service I want to look at, right? So I want to, let's say, look at mail, okay? It'll immediately then come up with the mail with a timer, right? So I can then go to a point in time and go and check the mails that this particular user received for that particular day or month, and then I can go and I can read it, okay? Or I can pull down whatever or whatever the case. And this is all straight through as if I had it, okay?
And this is the active backup for M365 module running on your NAS.
Correct.
Yeah,
100%.
and this is pulling from the storage, the backup. It's not talking to the cloud to actually find this. It's
This
actually
is my
a
own
snapshot of,
Yes.
so you could literally walk off with this,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
it'll still function normally, right?
100%.
So let's say you wake up one morning, you go, I hate my life, I hate Microsoft, I want all my data.
Correct.
And you've got it, right?
Yeah, you've
So
got it.
when we
And
start
you can do whatever you want with it, dude. So you can go and you can restore it. You can do whatever. You can restore the entire mailbox. You can migrate. You can do archives. You can do the OneDrive storage. You can do SharePoint contacts, calendar, all that lovely stuff, right? Now, again, we say that this is the first copy, right? So now we think,
so we're saying
okay,
this is the first copy, right? So
this is the
it's
first.
sitting in
Well, Office 365 is the first copy, and then this would be the second copy, right? So now, when I was told about this 3-2-1 backup strategy, and then obviously we've got another NAS now set up, I think to myself, hold on a second, well, how can I now go and replicate whatever this is? Because technically it's sitting in a folder on my NAS, right? And now I have another NAS. So let's go, we've got another NAS here. Okay. And I thought to myself,
the NAS that you were on earlier on, was that the DS920?
no. So the one that I'm on here is the 16 series, right?
Okay.
So this is the
So
16.
you're on a 1621 XS Plus, right?
Correct. So I'm on
And
the 16
you probably
series now.
compared it to, and there's enough blog posts that compare a 1621 XS Plus to a DS920 and what the differences are CPU wise and what you can and cannot do with it, right? But the interface is exactly the same.
Exactly the same. So you'll see now I'm on the 920, right? So now what I can now do is I can go to the snapshot replication McGaffer, right? I can open up this guy, and now I want to now replicate my Office 365 or Microsoft 365 backups to another NAS. Now, technically, you would think you'd have to reconfigure this and then do it all over again, but it's actually not that hard. All you have to do is set up a replication task. You can literally go create, start, click on remote, click next. And you know what it does is it actually searches your network for the other NAS. Right?
So hold on. You've got two NASs on the same network, right?
Correct. Now,
all right. You can put this somewhere else, right?
Correct. It can.
I'm getting John to bring me water because my aircon stopped working in my office. And I've been standing here for 33 minutes with the windows closed. And
so check, I can then choose my destination volume, right?
Okay, so do you define this up front? You say, hey, I've got another NAS device that I can send stuff to?
Yeah, well, no, this is what I'm doing now. So what I'm doing is I'm actually saying I have another device I want to copy from.
Oh, okay. So you go to the destination, select your source, and then tell it
Correct.
to course, right?
And then what I do is I enable a replication schedule. I can enable some snapshot tasks, and boom, that's it.
And this is specific to the Office 365 stuff or the M365.
Well, it'll work on any folder on the NAS, right?
Okay, so
this is what's so cool about it. Correct. Then what happens is once this has been replicated, okay, and this is the clincher, this is the cool part, okay, is what you can then do is in the active backup for 365 on the new NAS, right, you can quickly click there, task list, create, and you can say relink an existing backup task, and you can link it to the replicated folder. Then it goes in, it indexes, it finds everything, and boom, you've got 2 copies of the data that you can go through with exactly the same interface. So I will have 2 versions of this.
So this is like Inception, right?
Yes, exactly.
Backup of a backup.
It's exactly like it, 100%. Yes, and you'll see it will start replicating. Life will be good. And then we've got 3 copies of my Microsoft 365 data, just like that.
Is that 3, 2, 1 in a box?
Ta-da!
And hold on. So you did this now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you connected M365 backup, or what is it called? Active backup for M365.
Correct.
You told it to go fetch everything that's sitting inside of there. Yep. So OneDrive, SharePoint. I know there's a Teams port coming for this as well.
Correct.
OneDrive, SharePoint Exchange, and you back that up, all 13 users locally, to your 1621 XS Plus. And your secondary NAS, the DS920, you literally said, go fetch that and give me a snapshot copy, right?
Correct.
For this in Snapshot Replication. And we haven't even talked about Active Backup for Business. This is just an app called Snapshot Replication. So I'm making a snapshot of a backup on another NAS, and I can see that and interact with that backup as if it was on, well, as if it is on this NAS, because it is on this NAS. And I don't have to do any configuration whatsoever. So that second NAS could be a secondary NAS, working in conjunction with the primary NAS, and you don't have to worry about linking or anything. It's just Ninja dust. It's there, right?
100%.
And you just configured backup immediately, because you don't have to wait for that sync to happen once you've configured it to M365, right?
So you would want to wait until the sync for M365 comes down, right?
But from a configuration perspective, you don't have to wait. So
what's going to happen is it's going to be syncing M365 constantly to the 1600 series all the time, right?
Yeah.
And then every night it's going to resync or re-replicate the other data across to the other NAS. So you'll have consistent syncing all the time, and you can schedule it all, right? So you can say, okay, I want to sync from Microsoft 365 once every 12 hours, and then I want to ship it off to the second NAS once every 24 hours, or whatever the case may be. And it'll just
stay tuned for more NAS deep dives with Al and Woz. All right, so now you've backed up in triplicate Office 365. What else do we have on this little bundle of joy called?
So exactly the same thing would work for Google Workspace, right? So
we don't talk Google. I'll allow AWS, Warren. I'll allow AWS, and now you're scraping the barrel, right?
Right. Okay. Well, okay. So we've also got Cloud Sync. Now, Cloud Sync, right, is even better. And I'll tell you, we can do all of the exact same things. So now, the entire time we've been talking, right, we are always considering cloud as your first copy, right? Then your NAS is your second, and then your second NAS is your third. So if we think about Cloud Sync, right, you can go to Cloud Sync, check out how many things they support straight out the box. So you've got Dropbox, Azure Storage, Alibaba, you've got AWS S3, you've got OpenStack, you've got OneDrive for Business, so you can do cross-tenant if you want. So you don't actually have to do backup. You can copy directly out of it, right? So for instance, right, the Cloud Architects, I wanted to create 2 copies of the Cloud Architects data, right? What I did was, all of it was sitting in Dropbox. I told this guy that I wanted to sync the Dropbox folder down to it. And then I said that I wanted to then repopulate that data into my team, into the SharePoint OneDrive space for the Cloud Architects on the NB Consult tenant. So I literally just...
So what you're saying, that this backup device now comes with added replication?
Yeah, and so I could replicate from Dropbox to the Teams files directory using the NAS as an intermediary. And
I just got a business case to start a new business doing just this, right?
Yeah.
I will do your backups, and I will not only do your backups, I'll do your migration with the same tool.
I will move your Dropbox to your Teams. I just need a bit of intermediary storage. That's it. And it worked. So needless to say, similar story. Have yourself an Azure storage account. You can specify what you want to sync. So in this case, I've got my personal Dropbox and my personal OneDrive syncing down, and then I sync it through to Azure, right? And then similarly, do exactly the same thing. I can say I want to create a new replication task and replicate that folder instead of the active backup folder. And it'll do the same thing. And then I've got 3 copies of that data as well. And it's all point and click.
How many copies in how many locations do you have backups of your life? Right? Because it just seems like I'm going to back up from here, then I'm going to send it to there, and then I don't want it there. I'm going to stick a localized copy of it and then put it somewhere else in a different application. All right, so we've gone through M365 backup, right?
So look,
all
in all, let's talk about the limitation of cloud storage. So Dropbox is 2 terabytes. Okay, they charge me an arm and a leg for it, but what they also do is they take whatever shared folders I have with someone and they minus it from my total. So Cloud Architects was 1.4 terabytes, right? Mm-hmm. It ended up chowing 1.4 terabyte of my 2 terabyte that I paid for, right?
That's shocking.
Because it's shared with me.
Yes, so it needs a place to drop it.
Right? Not only is the person who owns the folder paying for it, I'm also paying for it. Right. So the idea is I moved it around so that I could delete it, so that I could get my Dropbox folder space back.
That's not we're not here to slate Dropbox, and if that came across as
I love it. I mean, there's a reason I use it. It's just very expensive.
Yeah, so coming back to the show, Warren, we've shown how active backup gives you for Microsoft 365 gives you triplicate, and then you supersize that with a bit of cloud sync, right? I want to talk about active backup for business now, the ABB one, right? Because that's the only acronym that works here. So take me through what ABB does. Also a free product that ships with the device, right?
Same thing, yeah, 100%. So for instance, this particular one, I've got 2 backup tasks running. So like, for instance, if I have to go and look at these physical file servers, right, I want to back up configurations, right? So for instance, if I have to look at this guy here, this guy would be my magic mirror, right, in my office.
Of your file server?
Well, it's actually a Raspberry Pi. Okay, now, this Raspberry Pi, using rsync via SSH, okay, you can see the user account is Pi. Right? I am backing up the Magic Mirror config because it took me a very long time to write it, and I don't feel like doing it again.
Where's the mirror? Do you have a mirror, a magic mirror in your house?
Yeah. No, well, it's standing over here. It's got my calendar on
it.
For
those who don't know what a magic mirror is, it's very different to magic mushrooms. It's an actual one-way glass, right, with a screen behind it that can push information through it. And it's an open source project that runs on top of a Pi. And yes, I'm glad you've backed it up because I'm going to take a copy of it so that I don't have to go through the content.
So exactly. So Magic Mirror, for instance, so if we go here, whoops, hold on.
We digress, people. I will be back to regular programming immediately after this advertisement by Magic Mirror, who is not sponsoring the show, because that's how it feels.
So anyway, so I have that running on a Pi, and I back it up using my Synology so that I can then, don't worry about this guy I killed the other day.
So that's just file server stuff. So anything's on a share somewhere, you can grab and you can stick it somewhere, right? But they also do other things, right?
Yeah, you can do physical servers, you can do PCs where you install an agent. Now, I'll obviously get to this in future episodes where, for instance, I'll back up my Surface or I'll back up my Mac or whatever the case may be. And then I'll get through to those as well as the fact is that I'd like to also start covering the stuff like Docker and all that sort of stuff. But ideally, I back up my Raspberry Pi in the house using the Synology as well, so that if that thing's memory card decides to go cheers, I've still got a copy of that data.
So this is the Azure Connect show, the Azure Connect backup show. We've just got multiple like unbox therapy with Liu later, right? This seems like a Liu later version of Azure Connect.
Exactly.
So for those that have been following that got lost in Warren's rabbit hole, right? what we did show you is we've got M365 backup, which is great, 3-to-1. We can then snapshot, cloud sync, replicate, and physical, virtual, everything of it, and stick it somewhere else, right? So if you've got offshore backups, you can even offshore it to someone that's giving you cloud storage. So the permutations between where you put stuff, how you put it, when you put it, and what you put is all in the box.
Yeah.
It ships with that, right? These licenses are free as long as you
I
buy.
didn't buy another
the
thing.
right?
No.
Yeah?
I bought the drives. That's it. I didn't buy another thing.
Yeah. Right. So when we come back to what backup concepts are there, right? The first thing was 3-to-1. It's an industry standard, and you have to have your data in triplicate, right? And as much as Microsoft offers it to de-risk your backup strategy, you would want to put something offsite. And I haven't found anything out there that's as easy to configure and as cheap to run as the Synology range, right? Because you've just watched Warren take you through multiple screens, and we will do how to provide the best options with RPOs and RTOs in future episodes of Azure Connect. But you've just watched Warren demystify, and like in what the show is for, we make Azure simple, simplify your backup strategy using a thing that comes in a box, right? You just have to add disks, right? Like just add water. So our recommendation, are we saying that Synology is out there? We might have a look at other devices going forward. I've got, and I haven't told you this, but I've got some other NASs coming that you could have a NAS off, right? But in my opinion, I think Synology tips the scale here, right? Because of the ease of use, and that's really what you want. We're making technology ubiquitous, easy. You know, you spin up a tenant and you've got mail, right? So why shouldn't you have the same functionality when it comes to backing up the mail that you just spun up? And I do think that, and Synology hasn't paid us to say this.
It's not just a backup thing. Like, as much as obviously there's a lot that we've spoken about today with regards to backup and all that sort of stuff, but like there's good 3 or 4 devices in my house that have been replaced, if not more, by the NAS, by the Synology. So not just all those removable hard drives, but my DVR that records cameras around the house and all these bits and pieces, the Home Assistant and the proxy filter for the kids and all that stuff, all runs on this one box that uses 1/10 of the power that a PC does, right? So
are you saying that, Warren, that it's not just about backup, it's about all of it?
Well, yeah, future episodes.
So, and honestly, a lot gets Warren excited, but I've never seen him use. He has devices for everything, right? And in this case, he uses Synology for a lot of the things.
Exactly.
So to round off today's show, we've shown you what 3-to-1 backup means, what we think backup means in the world, and the easiest tooling to use in order to achieve operational compliance when it comes to risk mitigation around backup. Go out, have a look at Synology.com, reach out to us or reach out to Andrew at Synology, and let's have a conversation about where your backup strategy should be and how you can achieve this with consummate ease.
Consummate confidence.
In order to deploy a backup strategy for things that are now sitting in the cloud.
Exactly.
And that's it. Is that a wrap, Mr. Dutoy?
I think so. Yeah, that was a good one. That one flew.
Well, it did, and we almost at the top of the hour. So thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Or listening to, because it's 2 years later and we still don't have a podcast, Warren. I'm just saying, put it out there, you know. If you enjoyed the show, like, link, share, subscribe for the algorithm. You can also find us soon, still soon on your podcast app of choice. You can find me on the interwebs, mainly on Twitter at Alistair Pugin, and Warren is
at Warren DT.
All right, and hopefully we'll have another show for you shortly. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
And we will get the intro updated to reflect the year that we currently.
That was cool. Yeah, that worked well. I like that.